Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to welcome you for a new episode of the EmpowHer Journey, the community to support your self-growth and live by your own rules. And we are super excited to have Anna Lundberg as a guest today. Hello Anna.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's so amazing. So we're going to be talking again about the theme of the month with Anna, which is how you self-sabotage and tips to create balance. And before I ask Anna to introduce herself a bit more in depth, just a word of introduction to Anna Lundberg is a business mentor and life coach, author, podcast host, mum of two, and she helps people reimagine what success looks and feels like. And her area of expertise is personal development and business strategy with her amazing program, the Business Incubator. So it's a great pleasure to have you today on this episode. And the first question I'm going to ask you is to tell us about your empowerment journey. Tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you. Well, again, thank you for having me. And I love what you're doing. And I was obviously hearing and looking at what you talk about, and it so mirrors what I talk about and what's been my experience in my own journey too. So the idea of growth, we were just talking offline before, that it's so important. It's been part of my coaching journey and my own personal journey. This idea of living by your own rules, that for me is the defining success for you. And also the idea of having it all, which has meant different things to me at different times. But of course, yeah, being a mother now as well has given me a different dimension to that. So I guess I always, in this context, think of myself, or I always thought of myself at least as the good girl, as I called it. So I followed the kind of the normal expected path. I had a little bit of rebellion here and there, but very calm, very tame, I guess. And I did well at school, and I went to a good university and so on, right? So I was valedictorian in the American high school I went to Oxford University, and up to then it was very much, and then I went to a very good company. So I worked at Procter & Gamble. But I felt like, looking back, and it's easy to connect the dots, as Steve Jobs says, when you look back, that I hadn't really been making intentional choices. I was always trying to keep my options open, because I always hated making decisions. And I came across a German word, which was Torschlusspanik, which is panic with closing doors, which I think really resonated with anxiety, closing doors, because I just always wanted to keep the doors open, not realizing that actually with time anyway, some doors are going to close. So much better that you close them intentionally. And I just felt I was kind of allowing myself to be driven by other people. And it's okay, because I found all the subjects interesting, and I didn't have a really clear vocation, so it's quite easy just to kind of plod along. But I guess I had some kind of awakening in 2013. So I'd done 7 years in my marketing job. So I'd studied international relations, development, economics. That's what I'd done for my undergrad and postgrad. I'd worked at the UN, and that's what I wanted to do. I moved to Geneva in Switzerland. But as I say, I ended up in private sector marketing for luxury perfume. And there was always a bit of a disconnect between what I had wanted to do and what I ended up doing. And I loved it. It was an incredible company. The colleagues were fantastic. That opened so many doors to me after that. So I can never regret it. But there was always this misalignment to some extent. So 2013, I asked for a sabbatical, and I went traveling for 3 months in South America. That was very much self-growth for me. Everyone said I was crazy, and it's not really a particularly courageous thing to do, but that's what people said at the time. And of course, once I got there, I met so many people who had such different experiences, who weren't necessarily from the same corporate good girl kind of background, who were traveling indefinitely. They were old, they were young, they were single, they were in couples, divorced, etc. And it just opened my mind. And of course, I read books, and I began to listen to podcasts, and I immersed myself more in personal development, which has always been something really interesting to me. And so halfway through that trip, it was 3 months, I handed in my resignation, because I knew if I came back, I would very easily get sucked into the comfort zone and my friends and my lovely lifestyle and so on. And that amazingly is now 8-9 years ago. So I can't quite believe it. So I've been longer out than in, as it were. So I guess now I have a very different identity, but I still kind of talk about myself in terms of being ex Procter and Gamble, an ex-corporate, and that's still a relevant message for me. But I initially fell into digital marketing consulting, doing what I had been doing in the corporate work on my own terms. So that was a step in the right direction. And I was traveling in between those contracts. But then I realized I was still doing the same kind of work. I was still tied to the same kind of work culture, the commute, the corporate environment and so on. And so I sort of quit that and took my business on the road. And along the way, I discovered coaching, which, as many coaches, I had been doing in my work, but of course I formalized that training. I did a lot of, again, personal development and reflection on my own career journey. And in doing that, I started sharing those stories, and then that organically became what ultimately became my one step outside business. So, it's probably not the way I'd recommend now to my clients to help them, because now what I do is help clients escape the 9 to 5, as I call it, to redefine what success looks like outside of the confines of that traditional corporate career ladder, also from a personal life perspective, because that's really important. And to do that with more intention, more strategy than I did, because it took me a very long time to get to where I am now, and I'm sure it will continue to evolve. And yes, to say along the journey, I guess I was that digital nomad, very free-spirited, single, traveling by myself, lots of adventure. I then met and fell in love with someone who was working in the 9 to 5. So I kind of came back into that structure for a while in London. And then we've, in the last couple of years, had 2 little children who are now 3 and 18 months. And we've moved down to the south coast of England. So very different lifestyle by the sea outside of London, but still for me, managing my location independent business and so on. So again, I like to think living by my own rules, and certainly trying to, I don't want to say have it all, but I guess for me, that means I want to be a really present mother, but I'm also ambitious, and I have lots of things I want to do. I want to make a difference. And also the combination of wanting to do fulfilling, meaningful work, but also make money, because sometimes I see this dichotomy. People say you either do something interesting and fun that makes a difference, or you earn money. And I think it's not that black and white. So for me, that's what that means. It means both having the life and the family and the personal, and I'm really focusing on my well-being and fitness and so on, as well as having the career, but then also within the career having both the meaning and the money, I suppose, is the other piece of it, right? So so that's been my journey to date in a nutshell.
That's excellent. That's absolutely incredible. I love how, yes, definitely there's this theme of growth. I love the empowerment with the ability to take the decisions, the theme around deciding, and how you now able to empower others as well with this, rather than having things maybe happening unconsciously, like being more conscious of their journey and what they can do, how they can plan this other life that they could have. And I love what you said about, like, maybe there's another option, because we sometimes there's so many things we feel like, okay, they're set in stone. There's either a choice to say yes or to say no. What if there was a third way? And what is, you could have maybe something else that fits even better what your view of success is, of what your view of having it all is. And I really love about what you described. I really see that into
well, it's exactly that. There's a third way, but also there's many ways. And I always think, we tend to think very black and white. Again, I'm over here and the goal is over there, and it's so far off and it's impossible to achieve. But actually there's 2 ways to get closer. One is to take the one little step, and my brand is one step outside your comfort zone, but the other is actually to bring elements of that vision already into today. I had a client years ago who we uncovered wanted to maybe someday have a business related to horses, and she wanted a horse. Within months, she bought a horse because she realized she did have the money. She'd started an equestrian marketing consulting business, and it doesn't matter what choices she made after that. It was just incredible, because this thing that was, maybe someday it's totally impossible, suddenly became totally, possible, in fact, and more than possible, real. And likewise for me, I've always wanted to live by the sea. And probably I imagined like Hawaii or San Francisco, but I've been able to now move to the sea. And yes, it's a little bit colder here than in, wherever in the tropics, but it's so incredible. And it's living by the sea. It is fulfilling my lifelong dream. So, there are ways to bring elements of that dream into today and not wait until, the traditional path, of course, is to wait until retirement when you're 65 And we've all heard tragic stories of people then being unwell or people being made redundant or whatever. We can't wait. We can't postpone our life. So beginning to bring little elements, there's so many nuances. It isn't this or that, as you said, there's so many different options in between.
Yeah, absolutely. And those limits, they can be tragic in many ways. As you said, like life is actually now, like life is now. And what I hear as well is the ability to open horizons. And I think that's in my experience, it's quite hard to do on your own. Yeah, you tend to be stuck with your things. You can't take this perspective. You know, things are too close to you, and they just having this little bit of distance as well can really just like open this horizon. And the example of the client that you mentioned, I think is really embodies that for me. What if? What if? Oh, actually.
What if? It's such a powerful question. What if? Exactly. And as you say, it's so hard, even for me and for you, I'm sure, you know, I can help others do it. And everyone says, oh, I should be able to do this myself. But when do you ever actually sit down and put time on your calendar when you're already super busy and with deadlines and so on? Oh, I'm going to dream on Friday morning and really visualize my best life. It's just right now, I've got to admit, it's not on my agenda. So if I want to do that, I'm going to need to work with someone else to help me do that, right? Because we laugh, but it is actually important. And, you know, I always say, if you don't know what you want, how on earth can we help you get there? We can't work out how to get there. So we do need to spend that time. But unfortunately, it's the first thing that gets deprioritized when you're doing other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so easy to be busy with other things, as you say, and to have someone you work with, and a coach, you know, is not like as you say, not here to give you the answers. You know, you have the answers. Let's find them together. But you are the only one, exactly as you said, who can find these answers. So what would you say about self-sabotage in your experience personally, and maybe as a coach and working with people? How would you define it, describe it?
Yeah, it's such an interesting concept and sort of counterintuitive, because it's so easy to blame other people, and it's so easy to say, oh, it's this unlucky situation and then this happened. And we sometimes do it subconsciously, right? It's just, oh, I was unlucky with this, oh, and then the company did this. And so we forget the incredible autonomy and power and free will that we have. And unfortunately, as it turns out, often it's our own, literally, we're sabotaging ourselves, we're getting in the way, we're hindering our own success. And it can be conscious or it can be subconscious. And I was just thinking, you know, consciously, I want to write a book, and I set a goal, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to sit down and write every day. What do? I make the choice not to go and write on my book. I'm going to go downstairs and watch Netflix all evening because I'm tired and so on, right? There's perfectly reasonable explanation for that choice, but I'm consciously basically not taking the action that I know is going to lead to the goal that I say is important to me. And then subconsciously, it could be that I know it's really important for my business to be really visible and I need to put myself out there more. But again, instead of actually having conversations, going live on video, pitching myself to the media or whatever, I still stay in my comfort zone and I work on my presentation and I take another course because I'll get a little bit better, you know, and I'm in subtle ways then taking actions or not taking actions that inevitably are going to lead to me not getting results. The pitching yourself, I find an interesting example, because for years, and I keep saying it on my podcast, I've said, oh, my priority this year is to pitch myself to the media. Do I ever pitch myself to the media? No. So I always say it, and whatever has happened, something's got in the way. And it was partly time and confidence. Now this year I have done it. And even though I've only done it tentatively, I've had a massive positive response. And, you know, the majority of them have been positive, and I've had publications take my articles and I've got that exposure. So the stories I was telling myself was, it's really hard to get media. They're not going to reply. They're too busy. They don't like there's such a cluttered environment. What could I possibly bring? But I was saying no. I wasn't giving them a chance to say no. I was actually saying no before I even got there. So I just think of so many examples from my own experience. And of course, if you look at where that's coming from, there's two obvious ones. One is fear of failure, which is normal. You know, I don't want to be rejected and I don't want to look foolish or make mistakes, do the wrong thing. But ironically, there's also the fear of success. There's a degree of, actually, what if I get so much exposure and suddenly I get awareness and people will start criticizing my models that I have, and they'll start, you know, trolling me, because we all get some negative comments, and that's really difficult to deal with and so on, right? And then what if I get too many clients? Oh, what a problem to have, can I cope and so on? So all these things sound silly, but they're all happening often subconsciously, and it's from learned behaviors, from maybe society, from parents, from school, from experiences from childhood. But unfortunately, more often than not, we're the ones who are getting in the way of the very thing that we think that we want, the very thing that we say that we want.
Yeah, there's such great examples. What I love is that there's two things for me to this, is that I think that the fact that there's a big part of that happening subconsciously really helps with the guilt aspect, because of course when you talk about self-sabotage, it could be quite a trigger of guilt. Ooh, I'm doing this is me, I'm responsible for, etc., etc. But when you realize that it's a subconscious, you're not intentively sabotaging most of the time, and as a result of that, second point I see there is the empowerment then happens as a result, and your example is amazing about pitching to the media. Your experience proves that you can actually not listen to and not believe those stories, and we all have them. They're absolutely normal, they're absolutely natural stories in our mind are going to tell us blah 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 blah, towards the fear of success or the fear of failure, exactly as you described. So in a way, it gives you back the power of actually trying, of actually seeing how it goes, and by your own experience proving it wrong.
And guilt is an interesting word there, because I think, parallel of, the classic example, we want to eat healthily, want to lose weight, whatever. And then what do? You go and eat the cake or the donut or whatever. But instead of enjoying that, and it's perfectly fine to eat a cake or a donut, it's your daughter's birthday, it's, you're on holiday, whatever, it's fine. But you go, oh my gosh, I shouldn't eat it, I shouldn't be enjoying it. And then you ruin the experience. So then not only have you ruined the diet, you've also not enjoyed the thing, And unfortunately, then instead of saying, what, no, I'm choosing to eat this, it's not going to affect it, and it's fine, tomorrow I'll eat better, I'll have a slightly smaller, whatever. I mean, I don't want to focus on the weight loss story, but it's just such an obvious example. And even with the bigger piece, again, I work with people who want to leave their jobs and navigate that transition and set up their business. I say to people, in no way am I saying, and nobody is saying, you have to quit your job, you have to launch your business. You're choosing. So either go, yes, I do want to, and I'm going to try, and I'm going to, sacrifice certain things, and I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to learn and invest and blah, blah, blah. Or, you know what, it's not a priority for me right now. I'm super busy. It's been COVID. I've got the kids. I've got the work. I'm actually earning a really nice living, and I don't hate my job, and it's fine. But make that intentional choice again. Because the really exhausting, from my experience, the really exhausting thing is, and I had it through the whole corporate time too, because I was telling people and myself, I shouldn't be here, I should be working at the UN, that's where I wanted to be. Was I doing anything about it? Not really. I was now and then half-heartedly applying to a job, didn't get the job, and then of course that reinforced my story that it's really hard to get a job, I'll never get a job, and then that was kind of giving me an excuse to continue in my comfortable corporate job and yet pretend that I wanted to do this other thing, right? And it's just, again, with writing a book, all these things, do it, right? If you want to be a writer, write. You might not be J.K. Rowling or Stephen King or whatever, and certainly not with the first book, but if the reason for wanting to write is that you enjoy writing, then write. It really is that simple. And we make it so complicated in our heads, but it's so soul destroying to think you want to do something and yet for whatever reason not be doing it. So as you said, exactly, try to put that guilt aside and go, no, I'm empowered here, I'm choosing not to do it. And maybe you change your mind, maybe next week you go, no, damn it, I do want to do it, and I'm gonna change everything. But that's then a different conversation, right? But at least you've given yourself some space to enjoy the cake or to enjoy the Netflix or whatever for now, because that's the priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And exactly as you say, I think it really reinforces whatever sabotage might be there initially. So it becomes like a vicious circle or a downward spiral, or even a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the guilt is triggering again, okay, yeah, you see you're a failure again, and so on, and your limiting beliefs and things like that. While we're really looking at breaking patterns.
Yes, exactly.
As you were saying, like getting out of that. So what would you say are like the secrets or little tips that you can share about that, about getting maybe more freedom, more balance and fulfillment in life?
I think the secret is that there are no secrets. So sorry to admit that, but that's been my biggest insight, that there are no secrets in terms of all these things. And again, we were talking about that. This is a lifelong journey to be kind and compassionate with ourselves, to understand what's happening, to know that it's normal, and then to make a choice to work on those things. I mean, when we're talking about the process, again, from where I focus in terms of building what I call the life outside the 9 to 5, not so much secrets, but I do have what I call the 5 pillars. So I talk about number 1, redefining success. And that is looking at all the stuff we're very familiar with as coaches in terms of getting clear on your values, your purpose, understanding what's important to you. Then the second one, and self-sabotage is very relevant there, is cultivating confidence and resilience, because we're going to have an emotional roller coaster as well as an income roller coaster, perhaps initially. And so really working on your mindset on these possibly self-sabotaging beliefs, reframing that, having more optimism and so on, and having a support network, taking care of yourself is really important. Then the third and fourth are a bit more specifically related to the business. So choosing the right business model that's going to support your definition of success effectively, building an effective personal brand that's going to attract clients, and then finally, coming full circle, designing flexible work-life integration, which is again coming back to this sort of having it all idea, but the business should fit around your life, I believe, rather than the other way around. So it's no secret as such, but for me, those are the 5 areas that I focus on for myself and with clients. And as ever, it is a continuous journey. It's not that like, here is the secret to becoming a confident entrepreneur with 8 figures. That's not quite my approach, but certainly there are, of course, ways in which you can set yourself up for success and have the support in place and make it easier for yourself, and work on your mindset and your habits and strategies, and even time management and planning and so on can obviously help a lot. So it really is a multifaceted, get clear on what you want and why, work on your mindset, and then the strategies and the tactics and so on follow as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I love the fact that there isn't a magic pill, is there? I mean, this is the essence of coaching, isn't it? Like there isn't a magic recipe that you follow from A to Z and you get there. No, you're unique. Everyone is unique. And if you're listening to us today, whatever is going to be for you is going to be unique for you. You have a unique flavor. You have a unique journey. And although there are things that can help you get more in touch with this, it's for you to find. It's for you to find. It's for you to define. So yeah, there are amazing. So not secrets, but those pillars I think are really, really great to actually create a strong base. And I love the word pillar for this, for the stability. They're really well chosen word. Yeah,
good. And you need them all as well. That's the thing, right? Because if you take one away, then it sort of collapses. And of course, there's the balance that you mentioned is a bit of an ebb and flow. I find more and more, it's really, sometimes you're hustling maybe a little bit more than you want to be, and then other times you're choosing to, I was going to say forced to, but you're choosing to take things a bit more slowly. And there's this, now I'm focusing on a business strategy, now there's a bit more the work-life balance piece, now it's vision, now it's and that's part of the dance, another word that we're using, so it's scary, it always is, and also empowering and exciting. So there is no blueprint to follow. That's the whole point, because you're designing your own thing. No one has exactly your set of experiences and expertise, preferences, aspirations. So you can take inspiration from other people and you can learn from mentors and so on, but ultimately you're creating something that's never been created before, which is both scary and exciting at the same time.
Absolutely. And that really resonates with me as well in my experience personally, and also working with people, is that this is actually more of a realistic picture of what freedom is for me. That freedom is more like this dance, and you're created and you're creating more and more stability internally, so that you can navigate the waves and serve those waves. Because of course we're working with a market, and you're a business, so there's not only you involved there. There's going to be people and clients and products potentially and things like that. So your job is to control this internally, not the waves outside externally. To learn to be a better surfer more and more. And I think this is why as well maybe some people have to reframe a little bit their idea or definition of freedom. because in my experience, that has been a lot more freeing, and a lot more growth, a lot more potential of evolution as well, rather than maybe a 9 to 5 that is stagnant, is maybe a bit harsh, but or maybe the evolution is different, or the feeling of stability would be different.
There's definitely more expectations, and again, there are advantages and disadvantages of that. Your comfort zone, you know, there's prestige and of course ego and status. You have respect, you know what you're doing, there's a certain rhythm, you've got a team, you're celebrating. It's, you know, there is a boss, and that's sort of both bad and good at the same time, right? That you have someone telling you what to do. But I love what you're saying, that idea of the waves, because that's also the whole growth mindset that Carol Dweck talks about. It's resilience, accepting the things you can't change, it's embracing challenges, but also redefining freedom. I love, because freedom comes up again and again as one of the top values. It was one of the top values I had and still have when I've done that exercise. And yet, as you say, it can be redefined as you evolve and become more mature in the process, I think, because again, for me, it was quite simplistic in the sense of breaking away from literally the school education work structure of going to, you know, literally your entire life from when you're 4 in England. I've been going to school a certain time period, you have your homework, you follow, you're told what you do when you do the, and so I went completely what I call my hippie phase, you know, I completely rebelled against that. But as I found, and as I tell my clients, there's a degree of structure and stability needed in order to give you that very freedom you want. Because actually, if I really just go, oh, I don't want to have a structure or strategy, I just want to go, my energy is, by all means, if you're very patient and you don't mind it being a bit chaotic, but actually I know that I'm not going to then be able to be present with the kids or publish that book I want to publish or earn the money I want to be earning. So that's really, you know, understanding that an element of structure is exactly what I need in order to have the freedom, which is so liberating, right? So it is, as you say, reframing what that freedom means. It's not necessarily as idealistic maybe and naive as we first think of it, but it's actually something that's much stronger and much more rewarding.
It's more rewarding. But I think there's exactly that, this idea of maybe challenging the fact that it would be having no responsibility or having maybe getting away from any sort of constraint of things like that, which is actually not, I think, empowering. As you say, I think there's a lot of freedom in the commitment, in the structure, that you actually need them to set your goals and to achieve your goals. They're very, very enabling and creating loads of a lot more possibility. So it's an amazing challenge. I think it's an amazing learning curve as well.
Yeah, and I mean, coming back to sort of the self-sabotage too, I'm thinking something that I've recently come to believe is, you know, it's easy to demonize the so-called 9 to 5 and the bad boss and the employer and so on. And yet, and I was joking with somebody on Instagram about this the other day, sometimes we can be a worse boss than any of our own bosses we've had before, right? So sometimes we take with us the habits and the learned behaviors again from that corporate stressful environment, let's say, and we just recreate that same structure in our business, in our so-called free life. And so it's again it's very empowering to know, even within this corporate framework, in fact, I can set boundaries. I can maybe choose to work with a different employer if it's not possible within my current job, but I can leave at a certain time. I can not check my phone. I can encourage my team to have, it sounds very simple, but, you know, obviously we've seen in the last couple of years too, some companies at least waking up to the magic of flexibility and working from home and hybrid and so on. So you can, again, speaking of what we talked about before, that there are many nuances between the extreme of either I'm in a terrible soul destroying job or I'm completely free and living my best life. The reality is that you can create some really lovely things within that scenario, but likewise, you can also create a bit of a nightmare for yourself over there in that sort of freedom space. So again, unfortunately, and also fortunately, a lot of it is within ourselves. So wherever we are, we can start to shift that mindset, work on those habits, so that whatever happens, those waves, as you say, that come crashing, we'll at least have our own sort of stable boat somehow to navigate those waves.
Absolutely. And I think as you've been traveling the world as well, it's definitely been my experience of living abroad for about 5 years. Maybe there's this illusion that you don't take your luggage with you, and meaning the emotional luggage and everything that goes with it. So that these patterns, so similar, and it's amazing to see it this way, isn't it? Like, if you're wanting something different, but you approach your business life like you approached your corporate life, you're gonna get your luggage with you. If you really want to put it down and break those patterns, this work on yourself, for me, is crucial and beneficial, not only of course for your business, also for your personal life and your relationships, and it really creates an amazing life. And that's why I think what you're doing as well, being a life and a business coach, is so it's connected. We only one person, right? We're not someone different at work and someone different in our life. So doing that work is, I found that coaching is one of the most effective way of getting there, breaking those patterns, and really accessing what you truly want.
And breaking patterns, as you said a couple of times, is such a key concept, I think. And as you say, a coach is someone who can do that. They can call you out a little bit and mirror that back to you, and because it's very easy to go back to those stories. Oh yes, but I can't do, because I've got the kids now and they're always sick off nursery, and then I find myself and I'm too tired, and possibly your friends and family allow you to stick in those same patterns and stories, but somebody else a little bit external can say, hang on, let me just stop you there for a moment, coming back to your why, what it is that really true, what's the belief here, what's the story, how can we shift? So I think the pattern interrupt is so important. And then also little things we can do ourselves, I guess, literally just try something different, try to catch ourselves when we're, oh, I can't do that because whatever it is, the self-sabotage, if it is conscious, and then take a breath. I think they even say, just count to 5, and then if you still want the cake, let's say, still have the cake or whatever it is. Or the classic is, I'm lying on the sofa waiting for motivation to get up and go to the gym or vacuum the living room. And actually, we wait for motivation, but it's the other way around. Action creates motivation. So if we get up and go, look, I'm just going to tidy those books over there. Once I'm up, I actually realize it's not so bad. It feels pretty good. It's quite therapeutic, and I'm going to feel really great once the space is tidy. Or, if you go for a short run, once you're out on the run, I love this, feels great, I'll go for a longer run. So it's also starting with a little thing, picking up on it when you're noticing it about yourself is the first step, and then second, try to take a little step, a little tweak, I guess, to your habit, just to break that pattern again. I think that's a really cool concept, to break the pattern.
Yeah, that really talks to me, and I love how you describe those steps. Focus on that next step, or that step right now, and then there'll be another one, and then there'll be another one. So what would you say to people who maybe have been thinking about going and creating their own business, and maybe they don't dare to, they feel that there's this block, and maybe this first step for them is very scary? What would you say to them?
It is scary. And I think that, again, the initial thing is to say, nobody is forcing you to do this. So you're considering, obviously there's a reason why you're feeling this pull. So why not, almost as a thought experiment, imagine, what if you did? So you distance yourself a little bit from it. No one's telling you don't have to. Let's just imagine if you were, what could that look like, and so on. And that gives you a bit more freedom, again, I guess, to imagine that without feeling like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, I can never. But again, breaking it down to a couple of things. One is to look at the things we've said, so the beliefs. So literally you can set a timer and grab a pen and paper and just write everything you believe. Having a stable salary is really important. A full-time job is more secure than working for yourself. Entrepreneurship is risky. You can't earn money doing something you love. Creative work doesn't pay. I'm not entrepreneurial. All these things which probably sound familiar to people. And then you can, once you've done that, look at, okay, is it true? And often it's not true. It is a belief rather than a true fact. Is it serving me is also the important thing, right? Because if it's serving you, if it's keeping you safe, and if if it's a helpful belief, by all means keep it. But if it is effectively sabotaging your ostensible goal that you have, how can you reframe it as a more empowering belief? Well, actually, working for myself is more secure because it means I'm in charge of my own income and I can diversify my income streams. Or, okay, I'm not entrepreneurial, I don't know how to do this yet, but I will find out, I will learn, just like I've learned how to do my corporate job and so on, right? So reframing the belief and mindset. And then secondly, as I said, putting the what and the why before the how. So we tend to get very quickly, oh, I don't even know, how do I do a website, and how am I going to do a webinar and an email funnel, and how do I get clients, and but hang on, what is it you're actually trying to do? Why is it important to you? And once you have the clarity on what you want and why, that will first of all give you the drive to overcome any obstacles, which is important. But secondly, it's so much easier then to go, okay, this is what I need to find out, or I'll get a coach who can help with this thing, or this is the next step. If you don't even know, you're kind of shutting options down before you've even allowed them to blossom or to sort of fully formulate. So I know it's hard because we want to get into action, and it's easy to, in a way, I was doing a podcast on this week, procrastinate by doing something that feels like you're doing something, but actually is secretly an excuse. So I'll sign up to a course because I think, oh yes, I need more knowledge and information, I need more credentials, but really, is a course going to get you closer to launching your business? No, what you're doing is spending more money, postponing the business for 2 years, because yes, there are some areas where you need a formal qualification, so I'm not poo-pooing that, but often we can get started and then we can always upskill, and it's always amazing to upskill in the meantime, right? But it's really allowing yourself the time to explore, to reflect, to dig deep into what's important to you, why, and then it's all this definition of success, values, what do you want, and then we can, next stage is to work out how to do it right. But first, just imagine, explore, have fun with it, and hopefully take a bit of a step back from whatever you're doing, because you do need a bit of a pattern interrupt again, maybe go away for the weekend if possible, or we all know those holidays when we're away and we suddenly go, oh yes, I could be a writer living in Bali. We suddenly imagine all these crazy things that we forget all about when we come back. So if you can get out of your normal environment, that's really powerful as well. But those are the things, really work on, examine the beliefs as to why you think it's not possible, and start working on those, because the mindset is so key, and that is the self-sabotage. There's no point in having a goal if you believe, I could never do that, it's never going to work, then better just save time and energy and not bother. And then secondly, really get clear on what you want to do, why is it important to you, and then let's talk about the how and the strategies and whatever, but first focus on the mindset and the big picture of what you want.
Yeah, that's amazing. That really resonates with me too, like the rush to the how. Oh, what about the social media? I can do this, I can do that. Yeah, but what is it? What is it, and why, and what's the alignment? And I love what you mentioned as well about never being qualified enough. There are so many people in so many different industries as well who never feel qualified enough, haven't got enough medals. In the coaching world, it would be certifications and the next certification, and it can be a never-ending process. And as you say, I do believe as well, it's a way to postpone the action, the doing it that feels scary.
Well, yeah. So just because I'm just recording my course finally, which I've been wanting to record for years, and I've kind of put up, and a few months ago I was thinking, oh, but I should do a course in instructional design, because actually it's been a long time since I did kind of PowerPoint presentations, and this isn't very effective, and I should learn how to present it more visually, and and I very luckily, I guess, pulled back from that. I thought, no, and part of groups, and of course I rely on other people to remind me, no, Anna, you need to get something out there. And then of course people will have feedback, and then I'll learn, and then I'll improve it, and so on. But in the meantime, I've got amazing content here. I don't need to postpone another 6 months to do another, and so on and so on. And within coaching, I love positive psychology, and I want to do this. And I went to my old university the other day, and I was like, I could do a PhD. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at least in turn, I brought plenty of goals, plenty of things to be getting on with now. I want to write my, and officially, given my lifestyle, my context with the kids, I've only got a certain number of days in the week that I'm working. So it's I need to make some choices there. So I'm being quite good, I think, now at really going, no, look, the priority right now is the course, then the priority is the book, and of course there's lots of other noise going on, but those are my big rocks, as it were, and anything else can kind of wait. But it is, as we said, a continuous challenge and learning curve for all of us, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what as well is sometimes keeping the imposter syndrome in place um, um, can be this illusion or this sort of idealistic view of, especially when you're starting a new business. Like I have to get it right straight away. So the first 3 months, I have to be here, you know. And the truth is that there aren't really right or wrong. Everybody's different. Everybody's business is different, and your learning curve and what you're going to learn along the way, the things that maybe you will need to improve, and there will be some, that's absolutely normal, are maybe not going to be the same as someone else's. So you can't really know in advance what the struggles are going to be, the challenges and the learning of options and the learning of, on different levels, personally, professionally, on skills and things like that. Only if you go ahead, only if you take one step and another and another, then can you grow, then can you learn really for yourself, for specifically your business, your industry. I think we sometimes get lost, and it happens to a lot of clients, get lost into the internet, looking at the answers, looking at, tell me what what should I do, how should I do it. And there's only so much. Of course you need good advice, of course you need skills and training, as we were saying, but there's only so much that you will learn. And for the example of being a coach as well, I think it's a great example. It's been a great example for me. Training has been crucial, but only by coaching did I learn to be a coach, by actually doing it. And most jobs are like that. Most jobs are like that. Teaching, so many examples. Only by doing it then do you grow your skills.
Yeah. And that mindset shift is so important, coming, I think, from the corporate world. Again, there's a bit of perfectionism. There's this idea of, the strategy and plans, and I'm a fan of strategies and plans. But as you said, we'll do our best work in terms of being intentional. This is the client you want to work with, this is the brand, and so on. But ultimately, as you said, you need to start putting it out there, see if it resonates. And unfortunately, I think the coaches who, business coaches, because it's not quite, is it, but it's more say, I have the secret, you need to do this, you need to have a group program, you need to have webinars, you need to do exactly this. And it's so, the funny thing is, when I scroll through Facebook for various trainings I do, I always find I can screenshot all these things. Workshops are the answer, don't do workshops. Webinars, don't do webinars. Group, no, all this. And yet, especially as someone who isn't so experienced, but even for me, it's so tempting because they're so confident and they've got such conviction. I start going, oh, they know something I don't know. This must be, that's what I should be doing. I should stop doing this. And a couple of years ago, I had a girl who was an expert in Pinterest. And I suddenly thought, oh, I should be doing Pinterest. But that was so time consuming. I spent weeks doing all these pins and then didn't really get results. So what am I doing? This is like maybe a tactic that could be interesting, but it's not at all my business model. It's not, my expertise and so on. And it's that shiny object imposter. And unfortunately, it's easy then for experts to come and really take advantage of that, because that confidence is in a way what we look for in a mentor, because we want to believe they have the answers. That's not necessarily the case, unless I know specifically, okay, I want to learn this specific thing from this specific expert. Otherwise, I think we're being misled a little bit, unfortunately. So if someone is too confident about their solution, I'm a little bit skeptical and a little bit wary these days, because nobody can actually know, and they don't know the best thing for you as well. So really you have to be a little bit discerning and make the right decision for you as well.
Yeah, really believe that, as you were saying as well, with action, the motivation comes from there as a consequence, rather than a cause. And the confidence as well, I think, by doing, by growing your experience, then naturally you grow your confidence. And the more you're procrastinating on and postponing taking these steps, the less confident you're going to feel. Even if you don't get it right straight away, even if you get, you have to improve and get better at things. Really believe that the confidence is growing through that process.
Yeah, the action creates more action, it creates momentum, it gives you confidence. I do a webinar 5 people show up, nobody buys, okay, but now I know how the tech stuff works, and I know, and the next time I do it again, and then more people, you know, and then it's, you can't sit at home just, I'm going to make this perfect. And also the book, in fact, that was what got me finally to launch my first proper book, because someone said, look, this draft on your computer isn't helping anyone, and anyway your first book is never going to be like a magnum opus bestseller, so just get something out there. And I put a lot of work into it. It's a good book, but you know, you can't expect that to be the biggest, best, most ultimate, you know. There was even a little typo in there which one of my friends found, you know, the year was wrong, which really annoyed me. But you know, there's only so much you can do up front, and then you have to get it out, and then you work on the next, each time you get the, build a bigger audience and so on. But it's so rewarding then to have written that book, even if it doesn't sell millions of copies, right? And then you write another book. So absolutely. I think the people who are most successful are the ones who are doing stuff, swallowing their ego a little bit, making mistakes. They just keep going, right? There's a bit of just sheer grit and determination to push through, which is
absolutely. So if we had a time machine and we could go back in time, what tips would you like to share to your younger self if you could go back in time?
It's so hard, isn't it? Because I even think of it now, I become that really boring old woman who tells kids, oh, this is why, you know, what I think. But because I never would have listened to it, that's the danger, of course. But I think the biggest one is that there is no right answer. So this, we're taught at school, again, my kind of good girl thing, you're looking for the tick, the gold star. The teacher tells you, yes, this is the right answer. That's okay at school. In fact, the one example I thought was in physics, in science, we did an experiment and we knew, you know, it was gravity or something. So we know gravity exists, right? So we knew the curve was supposed to go like that or whatever. And we didn't get those. And we'd always just move the points until we got the answer we were supposed to get. So that's not real life. I would never be a successful scientist because I'm working on the premise that I know the answer. It'd be much more interesting to give us a problem, to look for a solution. We'd come up with something super creative, right? So fine, school is very look for the right answer. And then even university, I didn't feel I was equipped to really have my own opinion. It was a lot of, you know, what's the right answer? And certainly in entrepreneurship and in the real world and parenthood, there is no right answer. So I've had to kind of let go of my need for external validation and find the truths within myself and listen to others, yes, but trust that I know, first of all, I know the best right now and I'm doing my best, but then also, yeah, that there is no best in a way because everyone does things differently and there's no right answer. So that would be the big message I'd give to anyone, whether you're young or now old. You know, you're never going to have all the information, complete information. In fact, another thing is that I would always, any of us, rely on my rational cognitive analysis, pros and cons, and what's the, you know, these are the 3 reasons. And in fact, the decision to quit my job was intuitive. Yeah. On paper, it didn't make sense, and yet it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. So, you know, it's the heart, it's the intuition, the gut, whatever that knows. And I think sometimes, as we said, there's so much noise and there's lots of people telling you what to do and you can't hear that anymore. So rest, get away from it all, get in touch, meditate if that's what you do, go for a walk, a run, have a bath, nature, and just get back in touch with what you feel is right. Because I think you never regret a decision that you've made based on your intuition. Whereas the information, you'll never have all the information. So you just can't make the right choice. It doesn't exist. So whatever choice you make that the right one for you. No regrets. And then keep moving forwards and keep looking forwards and making sure you're being intentional with the future. But know that there is no right answer. No one has the secrets. You're doing your best. And, you know, every day is a new discovery, a new part of that journey, another step that you can take.
Amazing. What beautiful words to take us home. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anna. So you'll have
a pleasure. Thank you again.
Yeah, with great pleasure. So you'll have, guys, all the links if you want to connect with Anna in the descriptions, the website, social media links. So don't hesitate. Her books, her podcast. You know, get as much as you can from this amazing expert to continue in your self growth. And don't hesitate to drop us an email if you feel like it, if you want to share something, or you want to ask for a specific theme you'd like us to talk about, at the EmpowHer Journey at gmail.com. So don't hesitate, and of course hit subscribe to get all the new episodes of the EmpowHer Journey. Thank you again, Anna. Bye bye, everyone.